Well, welcome to Life in Motion, the Parkinson podcast. Real talk, right? Real talk, real laughs, real solutions for living with Parkinson's. I'm Bryce, and I'm here with my co-host, Brian. Brian, how are you doing today?
Doing great, my friend. Hey, I got a quick pop quiz for you. I noticed the opening song I recognize from days gone by. Do you know what song that was that they were using?
Which one was it? The Time Warp? Is that the?
It's done by Soft Cell.
Oh, Tainted Love.
There you go. That's one for Bryce today.
Bam,
Way to
bam.
start the show,
Look
buddy.
at me. I'm wide awake. My hair is like not caught up to my brain. So, but I am definitely half awake. Half awake. I'm half awake. But I got it. Tainted Love. Absolutely. Do you know? I don't know if you know this about it. Funny fact about me. I was back in the day, and I'm gonna do my button up while I'm sitting here too, if I can. Back in the day, I was a DJ in a bar, like in a club in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver. So. I used to play all that stuff, and I love music. I'm a music guy.
That was risky for me then. I didn't know that. Not sure I'll challenge you
Uh,
in the future.
well, no, hey, someday, it's funny. It's same as Parkinson's, right? Like some days I'm okay, and sometimes I get it. I'm like, okay, like when I'm like Tainted Love, yeah, Tainted Love, got it. And good, but you know what? If you would have said who was the singer, like who was the band, I would Soft Cell would not have. That would not have popped in my head.
Right
So
on.
there you go. That's maybe for future come and get me's, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does.
but for me, anyway, I digress. How are you doing? How's your week been?
Week's been great. It was everyone's off from school. Now my kids are long past those days.
Spring
But
break.
my grandson was off, so we had the family in and out all week.
Oh, it's busy.
I felt like I was staying at a Days Inn. It was it was awesome. The weather was good enough here in Toronto. Yesterday we got 2 hours of pickleball in the court that I live in.
Ah,
Life was good. It was a great week and no snow.
I love that. It's been cold here where I am. Cold. But thankfully, the snow seems to be melting a little bit, right? So we're looking forward to hopefully getting out in the spring. But so far so good. And it's funny. I'm watching people too. It's sort of like the winter here in where I'm from. It came in like a lion and it's going out like a lamb. And I don't know about you, but I see people stressing out about it. Like they're kind of like, oh my god, I'm ready for spring. Oh my god, I'm ready for spring. And it's funny. And that's really where I was really thinking about like stressing out, right? Like stress is such a major thing. And I don't know, Brian, if you're like me, but I swear the more I stress out, the more my symptoms act up. And that's exactly why I wanted to talk about why we want to talk about this today. And I don't know, are you the same way?
Yeah, you could say that for sure. I actually saw a gentleman down the street yesterday taking his snow tires off, and I'm thinking to myself, he's inviting stress into his world, right?
That's like saying shut out. That's like saying
Well,
shut out, like before it happens, like you're cursing it.
stress is primarily self-created,
It really is.
and
It
the
really
example of
is.
him doing his snow tires this time of year, I think, is a good one.
It's funny. I remember reading a report one time, and they said that's like stressing out. If you really think about stress, right? Stressing out is really like it's the it's you're afraid of what's to come. Like you're most stressed out about what might happen and what might not happen, and it's that fear of the unknown and fear of what's going to happen here. And I used to say a couple things like fear, like the FEAR. It's like it's such a wild dichotomy that they did. Actually, I'll tell you why. They did a study at this university years back, and as they were admitting all these kids into university, they asked them all. It was like a stress question. They said, "What are you most worried about? Like, what are you most stressed out about? What are you most worried about coming into this college?" And a lot of them were saying, I'm really nervous about, am I gonna be able to graduate? Am I gonna have enough money to get through the whole 4 years? Am I gonna be smart enough? Am I gonna? And they all listed these everything that they were stressing out about before they got to the school. And then when they all at the end of the 4 years, I'm not saying they all graduated, but at the end of the 4 years, they went back and they looked at everything that they were fearful of, right? And fearful is like false. I always thought it's false evidence appearing real, like fear, false evidence appearing real. And they had this big list. And when they went through it, check this out. 97% of everything that they were stressing out about never actually happened.
Wow.
And that was a broad range, all these different people. And so I just thought that was pretty. I think that was pretty wild. Like I think to me that's not something that's saying that, it's like you and it bannered or what you just said. We put it on ourselves.
Yeah,
Which is,
totally. Like yesterday's a canceled check and tomorrow's a promissory note. Today is cash.
I like that.
Living cash. That's
I
the
love
place.
that.
That's where you want to be.
I love that. Well, stress is an important part with Parkinson's, right? Because then again, and I don't think it's just me, but again, when we get that stress, when we take that stress on, my symptoms are exasperated, right? So my tremor gets bigger. I get more tired. I get everything's just worse. So let's dive into this. But Brian, guess what? Before we get into this, do you know what time it is?
It sounds like a shaky or fakey.
I'm telling you what, we're going to do shaky or fakey. And if you're live with us today, or if you're watching the replay, I want you to play along because Brian was going like we do this like little quick shaky fakey, true or false, this little game, and he was like he was off to the races. But last week somebody took him out and he missed one. But all right, so here it is. So it's time for shaky or fakey. Brian, I'm going to throw some stress related Parkinson myths at you, and let's see if you can separate them from fact and fiction. I want you to play along in the comments if you want. Please play along, and we'll see how we get here. All right, so you ready for the first one, Brian?
Bring it on.
All right, here we go. Brian and everybody else, see if you can beat Brian. See if you get this right. Stress can make Parkinson's symptoms temporarily worse, but it doesn't cause long-term progression. Brian, is that shaky or fakey?
I'm going shaky.
Shaky, and we'll wait and see what give some people some chance to get it in what they want it, where they think they might want to go on this one. Brian is going shaky, and guess what, Brian, you are 1 for 1. It's shaky. So while stress can temporarily worsen tremors, stiffness, and fatigue, there's no solid evidence that it makes Parkinson's progression faster. And there you go. Miss Lori is in, and she's a shaky as well. So Lori and Brian are tied at 1-1. So it looks like they're going to have a Lori/Brian showdown here. So, all right. So they're both shaky. So you're both right. 1 for 1. All right. So here we go. Deep breathing. Ready for this one? Shaky or fakey? Deep breathing doesn't actually help Parkinson's symptoms. Okay. Deep breathing does not actually help Parkinson's symptoms. And is that, don't answer yet, Brian. Shaky or fakey? All right. All right, so Miss Lori, Therese, you guys. Okay, well, Therese said wait for me, so we're going to go. All right, so we're going to have a good showdown here. We got a couple people playing live, and if you're watching this on the replay, play along. Put it in the comments still. So here we go, and we're going to wait for Miss Lori and Therese and everybody else. So here it is, and put it in the comments now. Shaky or fakey? Deep breathing doesn't actually help Parkinson's symptoms. And Brian, you can't watch what everybody else is putting in there.
I'm looking you right in the eye, my friend, and I'm going. Can I say what I'm going?
All right, get ready, and I'm going to say yes. Where are you going, Brian?
Fakey.
Shaky.
No, fakey.
Oh, you said fakey. All right, Miss Lori said shaky, and Therese said fakey, and Brian said fakey, and the answer is ready? Fakey. Deep breathing can help lower the stress hormone that actually improves movement control. So there you go. So now 2 for 2. We're 2 for 2, 2 for 2, and Miss Lori is 1 for 2. And here's the last one. This is for all the marbles. This is for the. We're going to call this. If you can either tie or beat Brian, you will win the general. What do you call it again? Self-proclaimed.
The fact that I'm an expert journalist.
Expert generalist. I don't know what it is. I can't think of that name every time. So you will win the Expert Generalist of the Day award here at Life in Motion. But here it is. Number 3, caffeine makes Parkinson's stress symptoms worse. Is that shaky or fakey? So caffeine. Oops, gee whiz, I just about punched my microphone right off the thing. Caffeine makes Parkinson's stress symptoms worse. Is that shaky or a fakey? A shaky or a fakey? We'll give everybody a chance to come up, and you can't, no Googling, okay? Just really quick, shaky or fakey. Caffeine makes Parkinson's stress symptoms worse. And Teresa's in with a fakey. And Miss Lori's coming in. I'm waiting. And Brian, what do you think it is?
I think it's a shaky.
Brian says shaky. And we got a daily. I don't know what that one is, but fakey. So Brian said fakey, right? No, you said shaky. Brian said shaky, and the two people playing along with us both said fakey, and the answer is Fakey. Caffeine can actually help some symptoms, but it depends on the person. So guess what? Caffeine can actually help the person. So guess what? Brian has been taken down. Like taken down. And I'm so happy for that because that was amazing. The expert generalist has had a little issue here today, and I love it. And that was great. So yeah, it is Fakey. So here's the thing. And I always have to ask forgiveness before I say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. When I went my neurologist said, he asked me a few things that I was doing, and please don't scorch me in the comments for this, but I was a smoker, and so he said smoking, caffeine, alcohol, and sexual activity are very good for you, so keep it up. So I'm like, okay, well, there you go. So that was it. So I was like, this is the best disease I've ever had. But anyway, so that's the four sins. So yeah, so isn't that interesting though? But for some it causes jitters, coffee. For others, it actually helps with alertness and movement. And it actually it's been proven to release some dopamine. So there you are.
Are you a coffee drinker, Bryce?
Am I a coffee drinker? I've got this giant. I don't know if I can show. I can show this part of it. I got this giant coffee in front of me right now. Like it's a huge one. And I used to drink coffee regularly. Like I would drink it like throughout the day at work and stuff. But now I have like a 1 or 2 cups in the morning and then I'm good. But yeah, I do. But I definitely am a wake up with coffee kind of person. Are you, Brian?
Before COVID, that was my morning ritual. Hit the local coffee shop, take my hour drive into my customer site, and have a coffee as I went. But since COVID, I might have a couple of cups a month.
Yeah,
so not really at all. Yeah,
a couple cups a month.
Juice guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then how do you survive coffee in the morning?
I guess I don't need it anymore.
Amazing. I mean, that's actually really amazing because, to be honest with you, for coffee for me is like and I know, call it addiction, call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's probably something. But for me, coffee is like I always used to make a joke that anything I say before my second cup of coffee in the morning doesn't count. Like it's irrelevant because I'm just like a mess. Like I'm kind of cranky and tired. And to be honest, one of the things that when I first got diagnosed for the first few years in the morning, and I'd lie in bed, and I don't know how else to describe this, but when I wake up in the morning and I take my medication, between the time that I've taken my medication to the time that I can move and go, it's about 30 minutes, and I just feel stuck. And honestly, lying there kind of stuck for 30 minutes every morning was driving me bonkers. Because I wanted a cup of coffee, and there was just no way that was going to happen, and there was no way that I would be able to do it because I couldn't. And my wife still, my first cup of coffee, believe it or not, is it's like in a sippy, in a sippy cup. Like I have the lids on them with the little thing on it.
Okay.
So I don't drink out of a regular cup, especially in the morning. And there's a coffee lover there in the comments. So look at that. See, so I'm not alone. Right?
I didn't think you would be.
I love it too. But my sippy cup is kind of my go-to now, right? Because it's a little spot to go in my mouth, and
yeah. No spelling.
And it keeps me like, I guess you're gonna say, like unstressed about it, like totally unstressed about it. But I mean, I digress. I digress. So Brian, let's talk about stress. Let's get into this a little bit. What do you like? Give me your thoughts on like what stresses you out. Let me start there.
When I was first diagnosed with Parkinson's, the thing that really got me anxious, stressed, anxiety-driven was not knowing when my body was going to react to Parkinson's. Basically, through I don't have the typical tremors that most people get with Parkinson's, and there's about 30% of us out there that we don't get tremors. But what I get is this freezing, which is the on-off symptom, where when I'm coming off one of my doses of medicine and getting ready for the next dose to be taken, you freeze, which is you have difficulty moving. You've described it as the Tin Man, which I think is ideal because you need oil to free you up. And when I'm walking It's like I'm wearing two cinder blocks on my shoes, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
walk through quicksand. It doesn't last long, but it's 15. Like I analyzed my routine of taking my meds and how the freezing was behaving. And that's what got me over the ability to manage myself better. So I had a better idea when I should jump in the car and run to the corner store, get a haircut, go to the bank, those sorts of things. Because I was afraid of being behind the wheel of the car, have a freezing episode, bingo, not a good place to be.
Oh
But
no.
now I know approximately, I know how often I'm going to have it. Like I have about 5 freezing moments a day, but they only last about 10 to 20 minutes. And it's typically somewhere between 9:30 in the morning and 7 o'clock at night. It does not happen through the evening or into my sleep time. So count that as 12 hours, say from 8:30 to 8:30.
Not wild.
Yeah, but before I figured that out, and it was a couple of years before I even considered trying to figure it out. It was quite daunting, and it's knowledge is power. That's why I decided to become an expert generalist. All kidding aside, is I want to know enough about Parkinson's that I can help myself. But as important, or more importantly, quite frankly, is to help others. And that's why I do all the volunteering that I do at Parkinson's Canada. I'm involved in 6 or 7 different types of councils or programs. And it's really, I want to make the new person's diagnosis with Parkinson's better than mine was, quite frankly.
I hear you.
That's my
I
burn.
hear you. So let me ask you then, Brian. So again, and it's so funny as we say, everybody with Parkinson's is different, and that freezing up or that where you're saying you're going to turn into like this frozen thing, that weighs on your mind because you're thinking about upcoming, like if you're thinking about your day and you're thinking about, is it going to happen to me here, or I've got this big
Right.
moment here, is it going to happen there, is that, and then you start to kind of get worried about it, and that stresses you out. And the one thing that I find very, very interesting is that they've done some studies lately that when you start stressing out like that, your stress actually burns energy. It burns energy, and you start to burn through your levodopa faster.
Mhm.
And that this study was really, really interesting.
I did not know that.
I did not. So when we in the beginning, when we said, does, stress actually make your symptoms worse? Or I feel like I feel personally that it's exacerbated, like I'm getting worse. Like if I'm tired during the day and I'm really stressed out, I'm having a stressful day, I get more exhausted. And the reality is that it actually is that stress that I'm feeling is actually burning through my levodopa. Therefore, it is making my symptoms worse. So what a dichotomy of like, I find that fascinating. That it that it's just mentally. I want to say mentally, but that anxiety that's causing us to our heart to kind of speed up and get stressed out. Is this going to happen? Get more stressed out, is giving us that to a normal person. Oh, gee whiz, I hate to say normal. Right. And so don't Brian, don't kill me on this one, but I hate to say to a normal person, but to somebody without Parkinson's, right, that stresses out, like stress does cause, it gets you tired, it wears you down. Now for us, people with Parkinson's, the stress wears us down, and then our meds aren't even working, like it burns through our meds. So it's like a double hit. And I just thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, agreed. And if you think about it, I was inventing almost all, if not all, of those issues, right?
Amazing.
To your point, they didn't happen, right? But I was inventing them or living them. I was living them without them happening.
You're living in what?
Place to be.
Say it one more time. I totally missed you.
I just say things off the top of my head and I forget. I was living them without actually doing them.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yeah. I see what you're saying. In your mind, you're going through the same emotions as if it's happening, right? You're actually doing it. And then, exactly, so you're wearing that down. I totally get you. Yeah, sorry about that. I completely understand what you're saying. You're 100%. Your body is going through the exact same stuff.
Yes.
right? So, and then if it did happen, so the 3% of the time it did happen, you can do it twice. So it's like double the power, right? So I mean that's awful. It's awful. So Brian, have you found any ways and let me ask you that anybody who's on with us live or watching the replay, does this happen to you? Do you realize? Do you see that? Do you feel like when you are stressed out or when things are starting to bottle up on you, do your symptoms get worse? Do you feel them get worse? That'd be really curious to hear. Like join the conversation because we're just two dudes, right? I mean, it's like everybody can be different, but let's talk about that. So if that's the case, okay, if the case is that stress, it does burn through levodopa and it does burn some energy cells, and we're getting fatigued. Like if I'm fatigued, I'm really fatigued when I'm stressed out, right? And if I'm, whatever, what can we do about it? Have you found any strategies that are working for? Oh, Marilyn, thanks, Marilyn. Marilyn said yes, so she agrees. Like so everybody's feeling that. So it's not just the two guys over here. So, thanks, Marilyn. So what do we do, Brian? Any suggestions? Any thoughts? Have you found anything that works? What works for you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few things you can do. One is regular exercise, and exercise is just so important to you.
I know, but aren't you tired of hearing that? I'm not putting you on the spot. I say it all the time too.
As broken up as I did with my initial reaction, obviously yes. But what I'm hearing as I extend myself deeper into an expert generalist in this topic, exercise is so key for Parkinson's. It actually will delay the Parkinson's journey for you. It won't stop it, but it will delay it. So it is one of the things I strongly recommend. And exercise can be fun if you choose to do something you like. So
that's the key.
Last 4 weeks I got back to pickleball. Now that's not all I'm doing.
Yeah,
I still wrestle with doing 5 30-minute walks a week.
You know what I thought you said there? I thought you said you still wrestle. I'm like, you wrestle? I was really like
in high school, and that was a long time ago.
Wow.
Sorry. I didn't like the hat. It messed my hair. That was the 70s.
Those hats were the best. Like they were in the 60s, those wrestling hats.
For me.
That was the best hats ever.
Totally. But then there's things you can do around mindfulness stuff, and yoga, things, the calming. You get the Calm app, which I happen to have. Again, I don't do hours of that a week or a day. I do some of it. So if I'm not forcing myself to do hours of exercise or hours of mindfulness things, I find I have more success. And I do see some more comments coming in as well. So
Absolutely.
Trees here is saying stress. I try holding it back, if that makes sense. And yeah,
absolutely,
for sure. You can also get support. Do a buddy system. I'm playing pickleball on average once a week. I've got my wife telling me she'd like me to play 3 times a week. And I'm like, I'm working on it, but you know what it is? It's my stamina that's not quite there yet.
Yeah. Well, you gotta, I think the problem, here's what I find, and I could be wrong, but everybody I meet with Parkinson's, we're almost like all A-type personalities. It's bizarre. It's like this weird thing where, they're go-getters and it's like never good enough and we want to push ourselves. And I think that's what you said right there was so key because, and the reason I said, what else is new? Exercise. And I'm saying that because I feel like as I'm making videos and as I'm kind of doing more things, it's like that's that common thing. It's like, okay, how do you get over this? Exercise, and it's like, and I feel like I'm beating a dead dead horse. Like it's just over and over again, but it is so important. And I think you made some really, really good points. And that number one is, and I'm this is coming from a guy who hates exercise. Like I'll be straight out honest. I hate exercise. I'm like, why do you want to run around a track? Like, what is that? Like, it's like so boring to me. There's so many good things I can be doing. Yeah, and I was a team sport guy. Like I played hockey and soccer and baseball, and I did that. So individually, it's just the motivation for me is really, really difficult. So I have to really, really think about, I have to look down. If I do this today, this is the result I'm going to have. It's going to prolong my symptoms. I'm going to live better and be happier. So I think you made 2 really, really good points that I want to point out. Is number one is is find something that you love to do, right? And I always tell people, just move, like I don't care if you're running a marathon or you just got up and walked
Walk.
up and down the stairs 5 times, like it doesn't matter, move, whatever you can do, and just to keep active and stay active. And on top of that, the other thing I say is that I think sometimes we put way too much expectations on ourselves, right? Like we start out high, like, okay, I just heard that, exercise is really good for Parkinson's and I want to live a long, productive life. So I'm going to start running 2 miles a day tomorrow. Or I'm going to start walking 2 miles a day tomorrow. Or I'm going to do this. Or I'm going to do this 5 days a week and blah, blah, blah. And I think that pressure we put on ourselves, to live up to those standards, those guidelines, sometimes it's too high. So I always tell people, start slow, start where you're at, find something you like to do and just do it slow and be okay with that. If you walked around the block once, great. You didn't have to walk 6 miles to start, and then gradually move into it. So you said that, and I really thought that was really good. So I wanted to make sure we pointed that out.
Yeah, and I see Miss Lori is a pickleball player, which is great. She's playing quite a bit. She needs to rest up afterwards. I find the same thing. I played for a couple hours yesterday, and by 4:30, I was done. Like I had the golf on because I'm a big fan of watching golf, and I didn't see much.
Do you have to find, like, you can't play pickleball by yourself, right?
No, ideally you have 4 people. Doubles
okay.
is the best, I believe. So we had 3 yesterday. I had my one son-in-law, I had my 11-year-old grandson and myself, and my pickleball buddy just lives down the street. So I sent him a text saying, "We're in my court. Come on down." And he came down, and there was 4 of us, and we played.
That's
for 2
crazy.
hours.
We should almost look out for a pickleball sponsor. We talk about pickleball so much. We should get like a pickleball, be like the Life in Motion podcast sponsored by, blah, 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 pickleball. And I have a really random question right now, but the question is, why is it called pickleball? Like, why the pickle? Where does pickle come from?
I actually looked that up once, and I'm not going to answer the question as if I know the answer. From what I recall, it was invented by some folks in the U.S. I believe their dog was named Pickle, and they didn't have a huge yard, so they built a partial court and called it pickleball. But I would encourage our audience to go and do a proper Google search or correct Brian right here by throwing a comment in there.
And in short words, that means I have no effing idea. Is that what?
Well, there's some truth to what I just said. I just think there's some gaps to what I said at the same time.
You know what? I think that whatever it is, like I said, whatever it is, if you find something you love to, you obviously love it. I'm watching in the comments, Miss Lori obviously loves it, and I think that's fantastic, right? So, my fear is I'm so competitive. I mean, I'm beyond uber competitive. I am the guy, like I'll run through the wall kind of thing, and I always make it worse, right? I just can't. I don't know what it is, especially in a competitive, like kind of a team sport like that. I can't. I'm like I have to go all out, all out, and it's anyway. That's just a me thing. I don't know why I'm banging.
I'm like that too. I'm a little older than you, so I'm down that path of being able to control some of my emotions, just because I'm that much more mature, right?
Yeah. So you are way more mature than I am. That's for sure. So,
so I'm not going to beat up
and older, but you're older, Brian. Let's be honest. Let's just
exactly. I'm not going to beat up my 11-year-old grandson. But after playing yesterday, that kid's got some wheels. He might be worthy of a harder challenge sooner than I thought.
Oh my God, soccer
coaching. It's nothing more than that.
Therese said, "What about football?" And I think that means soccer, where we're from, and that's definitely sport. It's a good sport, right? It's like anything you can do, anything you can move, get that air, oxygen running through your lungs. It's just amazing. So I encourage people to find that thing, whatever that thing is, and. I mean, I've got so much exercise equipment, but you know what it really becomes? It becomes where like I hang the laundry up to dry. Like I got laundry hanging up all over my treadmills and stuff. So it really is finding that thing that you love to do. And a lot of times, let me ask you this, Brian. When you were younger, did you ever play like tennis or squash or racquetball or anything like that?
I played tennis actually competitively for 12 years. There
you go.
I had to retire, so to speak, when I was 40. What was I? 48. it was due to back issues, not a lack of talent, skill, and desire at all.
Well, you know what's interesting now? People think I set that up, like I led you into that. I honestly didn't know that about the tennis, and if I did, I totally forgot. But the reason I asked you is I found that so pickleball is kind of like tennis, kind of like
Yes.
racquetball, and so when people ask me like, well, I don't know what I like to do, but why don't you look back when you were a kid? What did you do when you were a kid? So, like Teresa's example, what about football, soccer, whatever? Maybe you played what you played as a kid. Sometimes you can bring that back. So, I love to skate. So, but I've talked before about my skating. Didn't go out well, but things that you did to do again. And so, play hopscotch, do things like move. Play those type of little games. I know it sounds silly, but it really is. It's like think about what you enjoyed as a child and what kind of games and exercise you did back then. You did it. You didn't do it for exercise. You did it because you enjoyed it. Is what I'm trying to say.
I'd be
Right?
getting on my bike on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. and I would get off my bike at 5 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon because I got home for dinner. And in between that time, I was riding a bike, I was playing tag, playing Red Rover, playing pickup
Yep.
football, flag football.
Yeah.
We didn't stop.
Yeah.
We didn't
Absolutely.
stop. Absolutely. So, and all that was stuff we love doing, right?
Absolutely. I didn't stop riding my bike till I was old enough to get a car license for, and then I never rode my bike again and drove a car. But you're right. That's my whole point. So I mean, you take that advice home. So if you look back, what did you do? You ran, you played tag, you did different things like that. You wrestled with the weird helmets on. Doesn't matter what it is, but you did that. So to me, that would be my first. Just to think back and just do something like that and just have fun doing that. And I wonder if there are pickleball leagues and stuff like so. And I think about that. There's all these stuff. You know what they're playing out in my area right now? You're never going to believe it. Well, maybe you will believe this. Maybe, and I'd like to know this in the comments too. That they're playing this cornhole game. It's becoming like this competitive cornhole. Have you heard about that?
I have. My middle daughter's father-in-law is recently retired. Lives up in the country. They belong to the Legion, and that's their Tuesday evening. Is playing that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, it doesn't matter. Do what you like to do at the end of the day. My wife loves to swim. I hate swimming. So she goes swimming. I go to pickleball, and it's fine. I was checking some more comments. We had a new comment come in from Cauzilla. She currently has pain in my lower leg, especially under my feet. I was diagnosed 6 months ago. Please advise. Thank you.
Here's an interesting thing, Brian. When I was first diagnosed, and that was about 15 years ago.
Okay.
Okay. Apparently, there was no pain with Parkinson's.
Okay.
That's what I was told. Like, there's no such thing. It's not pain. It's not painful, but there is pain. I mean, we all know it. There's some pain, whether it be in pain from stiffness. And I would say this is that lower legs, especially under my feet. I was diagnosed 2 years and 6 months ago. Please advise and thank you. I mean, obviously, we're just to point out we're not doctors or anything like that. We just kind of do things. And do you experience any pain, Brian, with your Parkinson's?
I haven't.
Okay.
I tell you, I had a lot of pain after my first return to pickleball 4 weeks ago, but that had nothing to do with my Parkinson's. That's just because I hadn't played for 7 or 8 months, right?
That was just from the actual exercise and being stiff and being old. Yeah. Well, I would say this. Number one is I'm gonna butcher the name, I believe, but Cecilia. There's a couple things. A is to, again, rub, massage, move, just get it moving and everything. But ultimately, I would suggest talking to your doctor. Obviously, I mean, that's the one thing that we don't know is what is connected to Parkinson's and what is something else, right? So that might even be a trip to maybe your if you have one, your non-neurologist, to your GP, and saying, I have pain in my foot, and see what it could be something else. But I would definitely suggest that you make sure you check it out. Don't live with it, and make sure you investigate it. But I know for myself with my pain, and a lot of the pain comes from like the stiffness, the soreness, the stuckness. And for me, what works the best really is number one, my doctor told me to get a massage every month, which I do, and open them up and work those blood vessels through. And there's certain areas of my body that where I feel that. And so as an example, when my toes curl up really tight and they're really, really hard, for me, it's more like I'm moving them. I'm pulling them apart. I'm rubbing them. I'm trying to get that blood flow going, like back through it. And that to me is the what I do with my pain. So I know that maybe doesn't really answer that question, and it's hard. It is a hard question to answer, but it really, again, it's just like I just rub them, move them, go them. But I would absolutely 100% suggest that you go and talk to your doctor and check it out. And again, if you're on a cycle, like a 6-month cycle to go see a neurologist, and you have to wait to go see it, go see your GP or go to a walk-in clinic and just say my feet hurt and see, because it might not be related. That's my big thing, Brian. When I go to the doctor, when I go to my mood disorder specialist every 6 months,
Yeah.
I preface everything by saying this. All right, here's what's new with me today, or this last 6 months. Here's the new pain, or here's the new thing, and I don't know if it's Parkinson's or old age, right? But whatever, and we go through it. And go, no, that one's old age, that one's Parkinson's, that one's old age, that one's Parkinson's, that one you go see your other doctor about. That's your blood pressure, that's this. So you just don't know if it's related or not related, right? So, but I'm sorry that you're feeling that way, but make sure you get it checked out for sure. Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, I was having a challenge with my leg over 6 months ago, and we have to wait to get to the right to have the appointment with the right people. But at any rate, I'm not quite at the end of job of knowing what's wrong, but going through an ultrasound and an X-ray and an MRI, it was then determined there could be some fluid in my hip. Now I'm working with a rheumatologist who's putting me through some of the same procedures and some different ones to try and come up and figure out what it is. But I went to my neurologist right away when I was having this issue. You're right. I get to see her every 4 to 6 months, but I have an open invitation to phone her whenever I want, and she'll get back to me within 24 hours. So I was able to ask her the question, and she said, nothing to do with Parkinson's, Brian. That is all about aging.
That was just you.
So we're trying to figure out what it is. But
yeah.
I'm not letting it keep me from doing things. In fact, the pickleball actually seems to help stretch it. It's certainly very tight afterwards, but a little bit of stretching after that, and I feel better than when I started the round.
100%. You know what? I just thought of this. Actually, you just said something. Again, stretching movement. That's the one thing I've started to implement into my day now. So when I come out of my stuckness, and this is going to sound really maybe funny, maybe not funny, but there's a thing that I found on the internet called bed yoga. Can
you repeat that? Sorry.
Bed, like BED, like
okay.
bed yoga.
Okay.
Okay, and it's on. I found it on YouTube, and literally it's doing yoga in bed.
Oh wow!
And so, but what I found with it is really kind of cool, because I literally can lie there and I can turn it on, and then when I'm kind of coming out of my frozen, state, my stuck state, it's really lying in bed and actually stretching out my, stretching my arms and stretching my legs, and with my feet there, pulling my feet and moving my feet and, kind of stretching my toes. And I found that when I start my day kind of with a quick stretch and a quick kind of opening, it goes a long way. And I know these are like little things, but they all help. And at the end of the day, they're going to help with your stress levels, right? They're going to help with your stress levels, because you're producing, you're producing serotonin, you're producing dopamine, you're producing the good things that does, and that's why exercise is so important. But so again, start slow. So here's the thing, like I said, I hate exercise, so I'm not going yoga, I'm doing bed yoga. Like, that's crazy, but it's fun. It's totally fun. What do you figure, Brian? Should we move into the next segment? Should we do that?
Yeah, let's move on. I think we've responded as best we can, not being medical experts. And let's get on to the next phase.
Well, I think we could maybe try that shake up. We could do the shake up thing. Do you want to do the shake up?
Are you ready for that?
No, I'm never ready for it, but I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready. Oh, I'm always ready. No, let me back up. I'm always ready.
That's what I wanted to hear.
I got you in Shaky and Fakey, so you can try to get me in the shake up.
It would only be fair, right?
Well, that's how it rolls, right?
All right, let me get myself organized here. Do you want to check the chat to see if we have any more thoughts or comments coming through? I thought I saw some stuff moving there.
Yeah, there's just some comments in there from Tree saying that, for sure, pain with Parkinson's, absolutely. We go to a neurologist every 3 months here in Ireland. Did you say,
Oh, wow.
Bryce, that you go every 6 months? Yeah, every 6 months is one in Canada. That's the general way to do it. It's yeah, every 6 months. So it's trying to remember everything that's happened to you in 6 months, and that's why I recommend when with Parkinson's is that you have a log or a book or something where you're writing everything down, and so that you don't forget, because you kind of get there and it's like it's talk about stress. You got 10 minutes or 15 minutes after 6 months, and you're like, okay, this happened and this happened. Now I'm doing this and I'm having this thing, and this is happening here and this is happening here, and you're going crazy trying to remember everything. So I write everything down. I have it all nice and concise. So I walk in there and it's just sort of, okay, here's what's happened to me over the 6 months, and this is what I'm feeling. This is any trends and stuff like that. So you have to do it. And then there was a from Casilla, and again, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Thank you so much for the excellent advice. I really appreciate your advice. Your advice. So God bless. So yeah, okay.
Awesome.
Anything. That's why we're here. Anything we can do to help. Again, we're just on the same journey you are. We're all in this together. We're all snowflakes. Not every one of us is exactly alike, but we're all, there's a general theme to everything we do, and we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you hanging out with us. So, all right, I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready. I
Are
want
you
to do
ready
this.
for the shake up?
Let's rock and roll. Give me some shaking up. So,
It's
yeah,
time.
and I want to know people's answers, because I don't want to be. Don't everybody today who's watching, replay or live, go along with me. You pick one too, because I want to see how close we are. Mine could be. I bet you mine are like the outliers. But anyway, you go ahead.
Yeah. So the purpose here is I'm going to read a scenario.
Okay.
I'm going to give you three options on how you think you might handle those.
Okay.
Coming down to one. So let's get started. Let's not belabor this any further. Let's start with scenario number one, and let's go. So you're out at a restaurant with friends, and suddenly your tremors start going crazy. Do you A, try to hide it and hope nobody notices?
Uh,
B, make a joke about it, lighten the mood? Or C, excuse yourself and step away until it calms down?
Ooh. All right. So I'm in a
If you need to
restaurant.
repeat anything, let me know.
Yeah. So I'm in a restaurant. My
Yep.
tremors. I have tremor coming on.
Yep.
Do I A, try to hide it? B, I joke about it? Or C, I get out of there? Basically, right? Is that where we're
Yeah,
at?
well, you excuse yourself and you step away until it calms down. So
Okay.
you take a
All
time
right.
out.
A, B, or C. Well, so this one's really easy for me. I know this one. But how about you? In the comments, what would you do? Do you run away? Do you make a joke about it, or do you do it? So I'm gonna answer it this way. I definitely know the answer to this today. If this happened to me right now today, I know exactly what it's going to be. Trying to lighten the mood. One comes in, and that's exactly where I was going. I will totally make a joke about it. Right? Totally, 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 totally make a joke about it. But and I'll anything. And sometimes I think I'm just funny in my head, right? And so I don't know if it is, but I'll do different things. Like I'll be handing someone. I was handing my daughter. For whatever reason, she had a big glass of milk, and I thought that was kind of like funny. And then I'm like, hey, okay, it's coming for me, so it's a milkshake, right? Like, so, like I just made you a milkshake. So I'll make a joke about it. I'll make a thing, about it. But I'll tell you this: in the very beginning, my first probably actually almost up to my first maybe 10 years since I was diagnosed, I would try to hide it. I have some go-tos. My tremor is predominantly in my right. It's on both sides now, but predominantly in my right hand. And so I do a lot of holding it. So if I'm standing somewhere, like I don't know if you can see this properly, but
Are you right-handed, Bryce?
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hold it. So if I'm standing somewhere, I'll just hold it, or I start, I'll be standing like this, or I sit on my hand, like I'll literally put it under my thigh on my chair, and I'll sit on it, or put it in my hand in my pocket. Like I would definitely try to hide it. But now I just joke about it, no matter how bad it is or how big it is. And having said that, if it was a really big one and I knew I was off, like if I knew, I don't know I wouldn't even know how I would do this, but if I knew it was off and this thing was not going to go away, then I would probably excuse myself and leave. But not because I'm embarrassed about it, but just because it's like why struggle at the table? Like why trying to get food and stuff? I'll like, hey, pack it up. I'll eat it later. But anyway, I'd make a joke about it.
Okay. And you know what? I would have chosen that one for you.
Would you?
I've
Okay.
known you as long as I have now. You do have a good sense of humor. I wouldn't say you hide behind it. I would say it's one of your good attributes, quite frankly. And I know for me, I would probably joke about it too. I actually had a scenario this weekend when all the kids and grandkids were over, And I came walking into the kitchen, and my middle daughter's husband was there, Ryan, and my nickname is Camper, and he yells out, "Hey, Camper, what's shaking?" And I said, "Not me," and that's a good thing. I think I embarrassed him. The rest of the room thought it was hilarious.
I
I didn't
love
say
it.
it to upset him at all.
I
But
love it.
I would go the humor route as well. I would probably, in a restaurant scenario, I'd call the waiter over and order a martini and make sure everybody heard that I wanted it shaken.
Oh, I love it. I
Yeah,
love that. I totally 100%. I think that's the way to go. And I think that's becoming comfort. So if others might not be at that comfort level with it yet, right? They might
right.
not be at that comfort level. And really there's no wrong answer. It's whatever makes what's comfortable for you. But my
100%.
hope and my hope is for everybody that we get to a point where we don't give a shit. It's like we're not embarrassed. It's
Really,
just us. Oh, I swore.
absolutely.
Oh, but you know
It
what I mean?
doesn't
But just
define me. I just happen to have Parkinson's. That's
yeah,
all.
whatever. Like that's just part of it. I shake, right? I shake. Some people wear glasses, some wear hearing aids. I don't look at well, you wear a hearing aid, so big deal. But anyway, but that's so there's no condemnation in whichever one. There's no wrong answer. Is what I'm trying to say. It's
Yeah,
what makes you comfortable and what's good for you. And I think that you're right. There's different scenarios, and there's also different stages that you're at, even with your acceptance and where you're at with it. So, yeah, I'll take that as a win. I'll take that one as a win.
well, absolutely. And I know Teresa Online has mentioned that she would lighten the mood as well.
There you go.
So good to know. Good to know. So let's move
Beautiful.
on to scenario number 2.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right. You're running late for an appointment.
Always.
Jesus,
I was
you.
I was just late for the live.
Yeah. I was getting nervous. Anyhow, you're running late for an appointment, and your Parkinson's symptoms are slowing you down. Do you A, panic and rush, even though it makes your symptoms worse?
Yeah.
B, stop, take a deep breath, and accept that you'll get there when you get there? Or C, call ahead and let them know you might be a little late?
Wow. Okay. So I'm running late for my appointment, right?
Yeah,
And my symptoms are they're slowing me down, like I'm going slower, and I know
yeah,
it's not I'm not doing it at the right thing.
yeah,
So do I panic and rush and go through it? Do I stop and take a deep breath, or do I
right.
call ahead and let them know I'm going to be late? Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, look at that. I decided that I kind of knocked that down pretty good. So A, B, or C. And again, in the replayer live, there's A, B, or C. What would you do? What would you do? And you know what's so funny about this, the way this is set up? I think it is, and we have a C in there that to call ahead and be late, right?
Yeah,
And that's exactly. I think this is the actual like this thing. This was written exactly for me. Okay, exactly for me because I think it's like a step 1, step 2, and step 3. So for me personally, okay, just for me, where I'm at
okay,
in my journey is, I right with the first thing my brain goes go. Oh my god, I'm late. Oops, jeez, I just yelled. My brain go. I'm late. I gotta go. I gotta go. Hurry up. Hurry up. Forget these symptoms. I gotta run. I gotta go. I gotta go. Right, and then that's gonna make my symptoms worse. Right, that's just gonna like the more I panic, it's gonna make my symptoms worse. It's like oh my god, wrong move. And then I would say, wait, I'd catch what I'm doing. I'd be panicking and rushing. I'd catch myself like, okay, Bryce, stop for a second. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, Okay, whatever. And then that, by stopping and taking a deep breath, it would say, okay, why don't we call them and say I'm going to be late? Right. So to me, it's almost like a step 1, because my immediate reaction is to just rush like I was doing this morning. I'm rushing, I'm trying to, and my brain wants everything to be so good all the time, so I'm trying to like do things that I probably don't have time to do,
right.
but I'm trying to rush them in because I want everything to be the way I want it to be, but and I need to like maybe skip step A and go straight to the
Yeah, exactly.
but my personality doesn't allow it. My personality is like, no, just go. So how about you? What would you do? What were you in that spectrum?
For me, I would stop and take a deep breath and accept what was happening, and move on. And I might, so I would be 2/3 versus the 3 that you using all 3 answers. I might, depending on where I am or how late I'm going to be, give them a quick call.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I
But
mean,
I would really lean on the stop, take a deep breath, and get on with it.
yeah, that's where you would, that was be your first kind of go to.
Yeah, I'd hang my hat there. Yeah,
Yeah. It's, I think that, and so it's, what's interesting about that question is though, it's like, if we have the reality. Okay, how do we stop stressing out? If
Yeah.
we know, right? If we know that stress is causing our symptoms to be worse, right? And we know it's burning through our energy. We know it's burning through our levodopa, but yet we're still doing it. So what can we do to mitigate the stress and do it? And really, that's one of those first things. It's like you need to stop, and there's just some quick tips here. You need to stop, and you need to take a deep breath. You need to kind of zone yourself back in, right? Because we go, and then and when we start going, we're outside of our own reality, and we have to come back into today. And it's like at the end of the day, you're running late for an appointment.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the end of the world. Things don't blow up because you're 5 minutes late,
Yeah.
right? For
You
an
don't
appointment.
even know what appointment that was or where it was.
It doesn't
Right?
matter. I mean, reality is that if we were a minute late starting the podcast today, we were a minute late, right? And we would have been okay. But yet in my mind, it's like we cannot start a minute late. How can we can't even think about starting a minute late. It has to be right on the nose, which
Yeah.
is a ridiculous way to think. But the way to do this is to stop and come back down to reality and take a deep breath and kind of just even meditate into it for a minute. I'm just going to take 5 seconds, which is totally opposite what our brain wants to do. Our brain's trying to rush to get there, but the
Yeah.
way to get out of it is to stop and take an extra couple minutes just to chill yourself down.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't even make rational decisions. Like when I take off in that area and if I'm right, I'll go the wrong way. I'll miss the turn. I mean, it makes it worse, right? So we
Yeah.
really need to stop and come back into that reality and slow ourselves down. The one thing that for me, and I don't know, Brian, and I'm just gonna, to me, these are almost like therapy sessions for me, right? Because I just sit here
Yeah.
and tell you all the stuff that makes me mad, and do it. But I always just get mad when people say, "Well, Parkinson's is such a blessing." It's been such a blessing. I'm like, get out of here. There's no blessing here. But if I did have to say one thing about Parkinson's that it's taught me, which is a good positive thing, is to slow. I mean, it didn't teach me to slow down; it slowed me down, but in a way it was in a good way. It's slowing me down to stop and smell the roses and
Yeah. Yeah.
enjoy the moment and not, I was always striving for next year, next 5 years, next thing, and where I was going to get to, and it's really forced me to slow it down and just appreciate the day and appreciate the moment I'm in, and that's really how we battle stress, is to slow it down, have some gratitude from where we're at, and just kind of just okay, it's gonna and just take that deep breath and kind of focus, just kind of zero in on it. And so
Yeah.
to me, I guess that's been a blessing of
No, yeah,
Parkinson's.
I agree. It's like I said at the beginning of the show. Stress is like yesterday's a canceled check, tomorrow's a promissory note, today's
Yeah,
cash.
I like
Just
that.
live in the cash.
I love
Live
it.
in the cash. You don't know how
Live
long
in
you're going
the
to be there. So,
best
so
advice I
enjoy it.
ever had. The best advice I ever had, Brian. Best advice I ever had. My mentor said to me one time. He said, "Wherever you are, be there."
Yeah, I heard it said the same thing said a different way. And that is the best compliment you can pay is attention.
Yeah, wherever you are, be there, right? And pay attention and enjoy the moment. Don't miss it. Don't worry about tomorrow. When it comes to Parkinson's, you're sitting here worrying about tomorrow, what might happen, and where you might be stressed, where you might be shaking too much, or if, again, we talked about this before, they're, walking daughters down the aisle.
Yeah.
Where our brains went to 10 years down the road or 5 years down the road, where it's like, wait a second, let's just figure out today. Let's work on today, and you know what? We'll get to tomorrow when we get to tomorrow. Has its own problems, and
Right.
and I also like the saying that says, today is the day that I was worried about yesterday. Or today is the tomorrow I was worried about yesterday.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is something like that. I can't probably screw it
Yeah.
all up, but again, we're here. We made it. We've done it. Like we've gone through. We're already
Yeah.
here, and we've made it through, and it was okay, and we'll be okay, and it may be a struggle, but that's okay. And so I'm talking a bunch of rhymes and rhythms, but I don't know. I think it was good, Brian. I love talking about this with you. It was very
Yeah, this was a
pleasurable.
great chat. Stress is we all experience it.
Yeah.
If we can help each other experience it less or experience it better, then great. I want to keep having. I want to be around and be healthy enough that anytime my grandson asks me to play pickleball, I don't have to say no because of Parkinson's. And
I
that's
love
my
that.
goal, baby. I'm going to make that one count all I can.
I love that. If my kids would have kids, I could say that, but my kids don't seem to want to have kids. So
Imagine teaching your 5-year-old granddaughter or grandson how to skate.
oh,
How much fun would you have doing that, Bryce?
I would love it. I would love it. Well, I know the one I wouldn't be able to tie the skates, but I would enjoy it so much, and and again, it's kind of grasping onto that thing. I think that's the other thing with stress too, and with anxiety and with panic and what we're going through is having something to hold on to and having something to believe in, having that vision for your life, having that I'm going to do it and be always stretching for it like that. It sounds beautiful, right? And I've got a goal to get there, right? I've got a goal for retirement and a goal for, what I want to do. And I want to travel. I want to spend time with my wife
Yeah.
and enjoy those times and not be some slurring, slobbering, shaking mess in the corner that can't do anything, and damn it, that's the way it's going to be, because I'm it's mind over matter. The same way someone said in the beginning, I think it was Teresa in the beginning, that she kind of fights off the stress. I fight off the symptoms, right? And I always tell my doctor, I know I'm going to sound absolutely insane when I say this, but I still feel like I have a little bit of power in my mind to control some of this. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
I can still control some of it, and I know I can because there are times when I just lay in bed. I'm like, okay, just let it go, and I'll go. My body will just fly, and yet, you know what he says to me? He said, "Why don't you let it fly all the time? Because what you're actually doing, it's more work. You trying to hold everything in, and it's making you more exhausted. Just let it go if your body wants to go." So it's one thing to think about and work on. So it's just it is what it is. All right. Well, listen, I enjoyed it, Brian. I hope you have a great week. We'll be back same time next week. But thank you for joining us today. What an absolute pleasure it was speaking with you and interacting with you. And if you're watching this replay, play along with us as you go. But we're just two guys that our hearts are. We just want to help. We're going to talk about real things and real emotions and real struggles and real wins and real victories. And we're two people that want to make a difference, right? That's it. All right. You have a great week. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. And that's it. Goodbye
Everybody
now.
be well. We'll talk to you next week.
Be well.
Be well.